Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome back to another round of My Patriot Report Live. I am Ratwan Hill, and I am with Mr. Walter Cotton III. Mr. Cotton, how's it going, man? How was the Christmas?
Christmas was good. Joy was had by all. What about yours?
Oh, it was great. It was great, man. It's always a good time watching those kids open up a gift and their eyes popping open so big. Like, that's like the best part of it.
That's true. That's true. The same thing with the big kids.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. And, on that note, while, in the spirit of family and, me just coming off an interview I did with Mr. Malik Williams Bay, who we introduced on the Patriot, on My Patriot Report Live before, and his mother, I wanted to talk about the economics, the money, the family, that aspect of it, because you often, you preach about us creating these family partnerships, working with the family, and it inspired me to ask the question, what is your thoughts on the current state of the economy? I saw that for Q3 our GDP grew 4.3%, but it says those numbers up there, but realistically that's not what's going on underneath the covers. So could you give me your thoughts on what's going on?
So, from an economic perspective, it really, your point of view depends on what class you're viewing the current economic situation from. If you're viewing this from the middle to lower thirds of the economic threshold, you're looking at a economic situation that is becoming increasingly more challenging as inflation skyrockets and the cost of everything that you need to consume goes up, your dollar doesn't go as far as it did. So you'd find yourself in a challenged position. If you're in that upper tier of the economy, the things kind of look opportunistic, really. You're seeing bargains in some places where people see challenges. And so those people that are dependent on a salary, dependent on a fixed form of income, those are the people that are experiencing the greatest amount of challenge in an environment that is economically as fluid as the one we're in.
Absolutely. So my question to that is, I know we focus on the business aspect of it. Those people who are experiencing the lower and middle class, what, and this ties into the family limited partnership, what should they be doing to essentially get themselves out of this situation? Because from my perspective, I don't think jobs are not meant to make you wealthy. They're meant to keep you at a certain level, to stay in that class. So, for the individuals who need a different pivot, a different direction, what could you talk a little bit more about this family, of the family partnership coming together as a family with their resources that they already have internally, and how they could get themselves out of situations?
Well, from a first things first perspective, the question that you ask me is what are people that are caught in the lower third? What kind of things should they be considering right now to get themselves out of that hurt locker? That was the question, right?
Yes.
And that's a very important question. So I want to start by trying to answer that, if you will. And the answer to that question is you've got to find that thing that's tangible or intangible that produces value inflow for you or your company, right? And that could be a geographic advantage, right? It could be a advantage like the one that Ratuan and I enjoy because of service to the country, right? But the point that I'm trying to make is that you've got to find an advantage that produces value inflow for you, so that you can use that value inflow as a shovel, if you will, to dig yourself out of the economic challenge that you're in. Once you identify that opportunity, you've got to redouble your effort right now to make sure that you insulate it, you mature it, and you cause it to produce the kind of sustainment income that your family is going to need over these treacherous economic waters.
Mhm. Absolutely. Okay, tying this into federal contracting just in general, let's just say government contracting in general. Do you see that just as a business opportunity, or do you see that more of a as a economic stabilizer?
Well, let's take the last question and let's tie it together with this question, and then connect the family limited partnership theme that you're talking about. And the question was, if you're in the lower thirds, what kind of things can you be doing to get yourself out of the hurt locker? Well, we said you want to identify the advantages that you may enjoy, and let's use the one that we tout often, which is service to this country, right? Service to this country has produced an advantage for him and her who bore the battle because of settled law, right? Public Law 10650 give disabled veterans an advantage in contracting, and right now we're pointing to a $1.3 trillion wealth transfer. So if you're a disabled veteran in this particular season, you've identified the fact that you've got a legislative advantage to wealth capture. Now your responsibility is to get your feces amalgamated, get yourself organized in a way that you become what is known as contract viable and contract ready in the space. You get those two things accomplished, and now you're in a position to be a complement to the economy, to the community that you live or reside in. Simple.
Okay, Mr. You say it's simple, but so my question is, all right, what if they don't enjoy being a disabled veteran? We know the dismantling of DEI, you know, they those other though if they don't have anything else to really rest on as a competitive advantage in this space, right? And say that we talk about the family limited partnership, but they disabled veteran cousin, he enjoyed getting his check, and he's like, I don't really want to, do nothing. Oh man, I don't know about that. What would you say for those individuals who don't have the reach to reach something that gives them that competitive advantage?
So what you just dovetailed into was the part of the question that I didn't answer, which was, how do we take that advantage you may have in your service to the country and connect that to the family limited partner example to create that bridge over the river DEI? And the answer to the question that you're asking is, if I'm an individual in a community, 99.999999999% of the time, I'm less than 1 degree of separation away from a veteran. They're in my family, they're in my community, dare I say, they're in the apartment building that I live in. And so, from that perspective or point of view, the innovator in you recognizes the fact that you could establish a relationship with that individual who may be under or not utilizing that advantage, and employ it towards creating that family limited partnership that we're talking about. And the upside of doing that is that it puts your family on the trajectory to do what those who came before you have already done, right? So we're not talking about something that's brand new. We're not talking about reinventing any wheels. The people that have come before you have put $150 billion worth of wealth transfer in their families' coffers. And those families and generations don't have to worry about anything anymore. Your opportunity is to do the same thing with a group of laws that have been adjusted, shifted, dare I say, manipulated to your advantage if you are a disabled veteran. And if you are not, you are no more than 1, 2 degrees of separation away from someone that you could partner up with to employ the strategy we're talking about or articulating here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Why do you think a lot of, well, specifically our community, because when I think about it, you look at the Jewish community, you look at the Asian community, you know, Indian, all the other ethnicities, communities, and uh they practice group economics, but for our community, that's something that's rare, I would say. You know, why is that, and how can we meter that out, you know? Because if we're seeing all these communities, and you go to New York, they got a little Italy, you know, a little Chinatown. Houston, they have these areas. What's the root cause for this?
I think that let me take a step back and make sure I understand what you're defining as community, because the community that I'm targeting is the military community, right?
Mm-hmm.
The community that I'm targeting are my fraternity members that are in BDUs and boots or were in BDUs or boots, right? And I want to make sure that we're not running along ethnic or racial lines, because my community has the same kind of challenges that you're talking about that, say, the Black community has, right? We're almost overlooked because we're non-distinct, right? We don't walk around with I'm a veteran saluting on the street, so it's kind of hard to know where we are, and it's equally more difficult to know when we cluster, right? And
Yes,
so,
sir.
what we as a community have to do is I think we have to make sure that uh, we're known, and we fortunately have vehicles, and I'm talking about we, the veteran
Mm-hmm.
community, because that's who I represent and that's who I'm repping for, in almost every community in America, right? Our veteran service organizations, starting with the foundations like the American Legion, right, have posts on every corner, right? We're almost as aggressive as the churches and the liquor stores, right? With our posts, right? And the same thing with the Veterans of Foreign Wars and the Disabled Veterans of America, and the new VSO. Well, it's not a new VSO. It's an old VSO that I'm revitalizing, which was the first business focused VSO. The Elite Service Disabled Veteran Business Network is coming back into vogue. And so those of you that are veterans in your community that don't know how to get out of the mustard, the Elite Service Disabled Veteran Business Network is going to be providing you guidance and a pathway that you can leverage.
Yes, sir. Within that veteran community, within that veteran ecosystem, of VSO ecosystems, I seen that American Legion had like over 1 million plus veterans in their group. My question is, it seems like it's pretty much segregated, and I think I might have asked this question like early on, but how does it look with how does it look with you guys working together? I guess is my question. Like, do y'all often work side by side, work together, or does each VSO just have their own mission? I know that American Legion, you helped set up the small business task force for the American Legion. So do you guys work together?
There tends to be an annual collaboration of the VSOs, And that annual collaboration happens when there is the joint session of the House and the Senate, and it brings all of the veteran service organizations in for the testimony. You've seen that annual circus, right? Where the guys with the boat hats are sitting there saying, yes, Congressman, yes, Senator, thank you for inviting me to testify. That's about the only unified event that I've seen from the VSOs. And that's not often 100% unified because the VSOs have their different platform items that they are lobbying the Congress for. And so, in point of fact, most of the veteran service organizations operate in somewhat silos, and they've done so because they serve niche needs for our community. Like the veterans of foreign wars, they're dealing with a unique group, just like the disabled veterans of America is dealing with a subset of our community that have a common but unique need for that group. The Black Veteran Empowerment Council, which was set up by Congressman Takano following the George Floyd incident, right? They service the needs of a unique niche, and their constituency has a robust capability, and there's not often time to cross mingle. So no, I don't see a lot of collaboration across VSOs. That's a good point that you're making, because as I step into the new role that I'm going to be taking on, yeah, I see an opportunity to create collaboration where collaboration is sorely needed.
Yes, sir. Exactly. Yeah, and that was going to be my question. Like, why? I mean, I understand they have different niche focuses, but when you look at it from a holistic standpoint, they all kind of interconnected in one way or another. Rather that's a veteran who's dealing with mental conditions, or a veteran who's looking to get approved for his rating, because that could lead to him getting a VNRE, being VRNE, veteran readiness and employment qualified, to where it could give him meaningful employment or become a meaningful employer. So I was just wondering why, it could have been, why isn't there more collaboration in between that? Because I can see where everybody worked together as a community, and that's the veterans practicing group economics within the veteran community.
Well, you make a point, and as I said, the place that I've seen collaboration is at the legislative desk. And so when there are, policy issues, when there are programmatic issues, we tend to come together and speak in one deep-throated voice. The veteran community is one of, if not the largest single voting bloc in North America. Where we don't come together is on these economic issues, right? We're not driving a collective effort to move needles economically. We did it from a event-based perspective when the veteran contracting goal was new, and we had to cause agencies and Congress to do the right thing, like we did under Kingdomware with the Veterans Administration with Public Law 109461. But I would submit that we're at an intersection now where we need a cross-pollination from an economic perspective with our VSOs, and you're actually percolating a need that I'm going to take on in my new role with the Elite Service Disabled Veteran Network. I will create that collaboration because we need it now. We need it specifically in 2026 as we approach the midterm election, because there are some there are some needs that we want to talk to our congressmen about meeting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Is some of those needs, could you talk about a little bit? I know that the veteran-owned small business gold preference program could be potentially one of those. I know there's other ways, because SBA has authority, as you mentioned, to approve that. So could you speak on a little bit about some of those needs that we have?
Well, and the reason I'm clutching, Ratuan, is because I know that over the past 15 years, a yeoman effort has been put in place to clear all of the barriers for disabled veteran contractors, right? To actually level the playing field to create an equitable position for disabled veterans at the federal contracting table. So right now, disabled veterans own an equal footing at a negotiating table that a large system integrator would enjoy, be it Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, the disabled veteran that understands how to get his feces or her feces amalgamated and become a bigger small business actually enjoys an advantage over those larger businesses. And so in this particular season, the critical need is to make sure that our veteran community is educated to that capability. And that's the mission that I'm on, right? I'm on the mission of making sure that the information that they need to empower their ability to implement the strategies that work, they have access to them.
Yes, sir. And as you were saying that, what popped up in my mind was that, man, imagine we have all these bigger, small service disabled veteran or veteran owned small businesses, and that VA contract that the community care center, that $1 trillion IDIQ. Man, I could imagine veterans and service disabled veteran owned businesses leading that contract and making some changes because that's the system that serves us.
Well, I mean, you have to riddle me that one because we have a law in place that we fought aggressively for, Public Law 109461, which requires, let me say that again, it requires veterans to have the first right of refusal on every contract that the agency lets. That's the agency that carries our surname, the Veterans Administration. So if the Veterans Administration is letting a 10-year, $1 trillion contract, and there are not a group of veterans that are in line to receive that, right? Something's wrong with the veteran community, right? Nothing's wrong with the opportunity. Something's wrong with the veterans community. And I know for sure the clear pathway that our veterans can use to prepare themselves for those kinds of opportunity. So what's the problem? Right? What's the problem? Well, the problem is there's a miseducation effort going on. The problem is people are abdicating their accountability and responsibility. And so I think that we need to reclaim our time. I think we need to take control of our destiny in our own constitutional republic fashion, because there are those that are out there right now that want us to believe that we live in a sovereign republic, skipping over the power of the people. And what I'm advocating is that we provide them a demonstration of how much we appreciate the constitutional republic that we live in by taking control of the economic levers within our nation, right? We as citizen soldiers, we as true patriots know that the economic instability makes our nation less safe. So what I'm doing, not talking about, what I'm doing is I'm taking control of that reindustrialization strategy that we're hearing Pete and the Department of Defense talk about. I'm taking control of the reindustrialization and reshoring of the manufacturing needs that we have. And the way I'm taking control of it is by making sure that him and her who bore the battle understands their rights under those rules of law and have the ability to compel the agencies, to compel the stakeholders to, how did my brother Spike Lee say it, do the right thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And right now, small the agencies are they're struggling to meet their small business goals because they're not getting enough qualified small businesses on these opportunities. What is your thoughts on just the federal contract environment as a whole? Because I know we mentioned that a lot of the opportunities, they're lowest price technically accepted, so they're not even making too much money, or is it the opportunities that they're going after because they're only a small business, so they're only limited to go after certain size contracts, which doesn't is not fruitful for their organization as much, or they're they nickel and diamond just to survive.
Well, I would question the characterization that the government is not meeting its small business goal, because I actually was a part of that cadre of service members that introduced the disabled veteran joint venturing strategy that caused not just the veteran community, but the small business community at large to increase their performance with the federal government. And so I have it under good authority, and I would check with Chat GPT on this one, that the federal government has been exceeding its small business contracting goal, which is 23%, since about circa 2021. I think it's 2017, but I'm going to err on the side of being cautious. And so from that perspective or point of view, the government is meeting the minimum floor, right? They're meeting the requirements of the Small Business Act, where Congress wrote as its policy to use small businesses to the maximum extent practicable. And they put the 23% goal in there, and we've now exceeded that. The need, I believe now, is to reimagine how small businesses can contribute to the mission of the federal government and raise that floor from 23% to the degree necessary that this new breed of bigger small businesses can participate. Ere I say, it may be time for us to reimagine the Small Business Administration like we did in 1979 when we reauthorized the Small Business Administration, and that reauthorization led to the advent of a number of new programs like that we enjoy today, like Public Law 10650, which again came out of the need to reimagine the Small Business Administration in 1979.
Absolutely. So, okay, if they reauthorize the SBA, what type of actions would you imagine coming out of that? And I ask that because got the audit of the 8A, then we see them auditing they're going to audit, the Department of Treasury is going to audit all the other social economic statuses. So what kind of programs would you imagine would come out of a reauthorization of the SBA?
I would imagine that we would find programs that fit the needs of today's economy more better, right? I'm gonna break the vernacular there, right? That because what we're dealing with is we've got programs that were created in the federal government that are based on antiquated theories. They're based on technology that we no longer even use, but we are putting band-aids and bubble gum and tape on these administrative programs to try to cause them to fit in a new millennium environment. I think the reauthorization of the SBA allows us to reimagine our programmatic approach and bring that programmatic approach into a relationship with today's technology and how today's technology can enable a more efficient, you fill in the blank, right? Procurement system, more efficient, you fill in the blank, Treasury Department, right? You fill in the blank in terms of, how we might be able to enhance our environment with that fresh look at things.
Do you think they're in some way doing that with AI? Because they're doing direct partnerships with all the top AIs, every single one, Chat GPT, Gemini. Do you think they're doing that from a systematic approach by utilizing the biggest AI companies right now?
Well, I honestly don't think that they know what they're doing with AI or what AI is doing to them just yet, right? The jury is out on that as we build this relationship with AI and start understanding, what happens when there's no human in the loop. Okay. And as you know, I have a relationship with a AI partner where we are hyper focused on disrupting the acquisition space, right? The Awarded AI is the partner, Procurement Science is the company, and it's a group of 1102s that came together and said, hey, we want to crack this AI code and we want to do it from an ethical and informed perspective. And so we've got an AI solution that has been connected to a control data lake for the better part of 4 years. We got about $60 million invested in it. And my point very simply is that AI and any other technology applied against the problem in the proper fashion will lead you to an outcome quicker, right? Applied to the problem in the wrong fashion, it'll lead you to a failure faster. And so my position right now is that we need to slow down, take a break, right? Identify that you are here point and apply this technology appropriately because we saw what happened when the whole Doge movement went underway, right? And there was the indiscriminate application of AI against efficiency programs, and AI was telling the humans to cancel programs that cost people's lives. Like literally, if you turn that program off right there today, tomorrow people are going to be dead, right? And so AI is a facilitator that I think we need to get our arms around because we can use that to potentially architect a better tomorrow. But right now, the jury is out in terms of whether or not we are getting optimum efficiency from our relationship with that technology at this point.
Yes, sir. And you could look at the Government Accountability Office and the protest there. They got protests in regards to people responding to solicitations with AI, and that being protested because of wrong things that got put into it. So yeah, you're absolutely right. The we still have a lot of questions to answer in regards to the human having the human in the loop and metering out those hallucinations that we all know that AI often does.
Yeah, and because AI is technology, and what technology does is it allows man to move faster, right? And if you are able to move at a speed that's outside your ability to process, it's outside your ability to navigate, the opportunity for a tragedy, the opportunity for an accident occurs. And that's what AI has done for us, right? It's caused mankind to move at a speed that's faster than his ability to process, right? Because before you've taken the last answer, you got from AI and consumed it, processed it, digested it, you've asked it to go ahead and enhance that last answer. So right now, man is moving at a pace that I think is outside of his ability to really control, and we need to pump the brakes. We need to pump the brakes. And in a situation where you have as much money as is involved around AI, right? People are talking about, right, the new gold rush, the new holy grail, right? You get people's, salivating and nose running at, these kinds of dollars, and they throw caution to the wind. That's when it becomes, I mean, and the people that are throwing caution to the wind are the leaders, the stakeholders, right? The ones that, stand to gain the most from the underhanded deals, right? Those are the ones that are making decisions that need to be held to account. And it's my position, my supposition, that now is a season where we need a we the people movement to put a check and balance in place, to put a fourth branch of government in place, because the three branches are acting erratically, right? The House is not checking the executive branch, right? The legislative branch is rubber stamping the executive branch. So what we need now is we need a response from that fourth branch of government, right? That's the branch of government that our forefathers saw as being critical to the idea that we would have another totalitarian rulership come up. And so now we, the people, need to stand up, clear our voices, and make our thoughts known.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Much needed. Much needed to stop unnecessary pain from happening. Um, Guys, we're gonna put a bow tie on this, and we'll catch you on Wednesday for the last episode of this year of My Patriot Report Live. I am Ratwan Hill, and that is Mr. Walter Cotton III. Until next time, guys, we are out.